Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and for this episode I'm joined live by Dennis Rollins, an extraordinary trombonist and educator who I saw performing with the Cambridge University Jazz Orchestra for Cambridge Jazz Festival just a few weeks ago. What you're listening to now is Sold Out, one of Dennis's own compositions. I hope you enjoy listening to my conversation with Dennis Rollins.
Hello.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me midway in this exciting concert.
Well, it's the adrenaline is still up there, sure. And really enjoyed the first set and looking forward to the second one.
Absolutely. So, Cambridge University Jazz Orchestra.
Yes.
That's brilliant. But they're a big band, aren't they?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So, is this your first relationship with them?
No, I was lucky enough to play at I think the first one was 2015 festival, and I was lucky to play with them then. Subsequently with Resolution 88 at I think it was 2019, I think it was, and here I am today, and I'm so overwhelmed is the word at being asked to take the post of artistic director with Gina Southgate.
Yeah, and that's such a great relationship between you and Gina with the visual arts going on at the side of the stage.
Absolutely, and she brings the music to life
in a very different way.
Absolutely, and it's quite something, because when you're performing and you see an artist of another genre creating with you, it's something kind of mind-blowing, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cambridge Jazz Festival's really taken this on board, this whole visual and musical art together.
Yes.
Which is a lovely thing. And in fact, I heard you say just now that Gina did the artwork for your trio album.
In 2011.
How weird is that? It's brilliant.
Which is quite incredible. And as I told the audience, she came into the rehearsal studio, set up her paints, we played, we were thrashing around, and she was thrashing around.
Yeah.
And the result are two beautiful paintings that I now have on my walls at home, which is incredible.
That's fantastic. And I understand that your guitarist at that point was Ross Stanley.
My organ player, my Hammond player, yes.
Yeah, the Hammond player. Yeah,
Ross Stanley, yes.
Yeah, because he's been a guest on the podcast.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yeah, and that was really, yes, of course, I get so confused.
But
I've had 250 guests.
I imagine. But talking of Ross Stanley, he's one of the most incredible musicians.
He's just incredible, isn't he? He's got real moves on him.
And the thing is, he's very understated. But what he does is world class. Any world class musician comes to the UK, they call Ross Stanley for Hammond organ.
Yeah. Talking of understated, I think you're understated as a trombonist.
I've really had the pleasure I turned 60. I turned 60 last week.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah. But over 40 years, I've had the pleasure of playing with some of the greatest musicians in the world, and I'm happy to say I'm not ready to put my boots under the table yet, and I'm still managing to do that. But a lot of my passion now is with the youth. Right,
which is of course why we're here tonight.
Yes.
And that's why you got your MBE as well, isn't it?
Yes.
For that, it feels like you're very much giving back to the people who helped you when you were starting out.
Absolutely. I was brought up in Doncaster, South Yorkshire, and I was very fortunate to have a youth jazz association.
Right.
From my age of 14, right through until I became professional at 21. I actually started in brass bands in around 1980. So I did my brass band education. Then I found this youth jazz association in my local town. And I went through all of the schooling there. And I was fortunate to have some great teachers, some really beautiful, spirited teachers teaching me. So at the same time of learning about trombone articulation, improvisation, and the sense of community, I was learning to teach at the same time. I just didn't know it.
It's interesting. Brass bands are like that, aren't they? The same way that big bands are. In terms of you share.
Absolutely.
You're all learning at the same time in different ways.
Yes, and it's not only the learning; it's the discipline of learning. Brass bands. Every year they go and play at contests.
Yeah.
And they rehearse sometimes 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Really intensely, and they're some of the most amazing brass players in the UK are brass band musicians that don't really see the light of day in a professional sense, but they are professionals in what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. So as well as your MBE, you have won loads of awards, haven't you? You've been nominated and won so many awards. And I think there's something about being a nice guy as well as being a great trombonist and sharing. There's something about that I think puts you in that spot. Do you agree?
It's interesting because the awards, I'm very humbly grateful for any award I get. And I always see the awards for my mom. It's like anytime I get an award, I feel, that's for my mom. That's why she came over from Jamaica in the early 60s to make a better life for her and her children and her children that she was to have, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so when I got the MBE, when I got the Freedom of the Borough for Doncaster and Ronnie Scott's Jazz and all of these awards, I just see my mom.
Right. And that's lovely, isn't it? I mean, I think giving something back to her, but also giving back to Doncaster. It feels like you've kind of taken that out into the world. I mean, you've played with some of the greats, haven't you?
Yes, I'm very lucky because I see there are so many musicians that are musically and spiritually worthy of playing with greats. It's just opportunities, the connections that you make, but I'm still blown away by if I get a call from, say, Monty Alexander, the famous jazz pianist of Caribbean heritage. When he calls me, I'm like jumping about the room every time, and he still calls me, and I'm always surprised, and I do get that sort of imposter. Why is he calling me?
Yeah.
And it's still magical to me when I get those calls,
Yeah, but that's brilliant. That's great. So what's next for you?
What's next for me is more education. I've just launched a funky trombone site, an online course site called funkytrombone.com.
I'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Yes, and with this, I'm teaching all kinds of articulations, and I've pre-recorded about 20 courses, with each course with about 30 lessons in, and it's all video and it's all interactive. So that's my main thing at the moment, along with obviously my great relationship with the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama. They gave me an honorary fellowship, and I do a lot of stuff there, and I really love the work that I do with them. So it's varied. I think that's the thing. I'm lucky to have a varied musical career. It's not just going on stage with one artist, it's many.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you know, I'm able to go into the universities and colleges and primary schools to teach, you know.
That's fantastic. That's really good. I'm going to have to let you go because obviously you've got to, you know, take 5 minutes to then get ready for the second half of this amazing show. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm really, really grateful.
And thank you. It's a real pleasure talking with you. It really is.
I hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation with Dennis Rollins. What you're listening to now is his track, Funk and Disorderly. Do please check out his stuff online. He's an absolute passionate performer and educator it was just such a joy to speak to him. And I know that we're going to have another chance to have a chat at some point in the future. Thank you for joining me once more for Harmonious World. Don't forget to share it wherever you can. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.